I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm covering a Kotaku article because it's actually talking about game related stuff. And as far as I understand, there's no LGBTQ pushing agenda in it. This is from Kotaku. It says one game publisher is pushing back against AI art with contracts that ban it. In quotes, it's cancerous. So a publisher is so against AI in the games that they are not allowing any developer that makes a game with AI to be published through them. And it's in their contract. With way to put yourself out of business, by the way, when everything is going that direction. Instead of saying we're going to pick the games that are the cream of the crop and the best games out there, we're going to say what you're allowed to do in your game. We're going to be the police of what's allowed in your creativity. Okay, good luck with that. Hooded Horse won't work with developers that use generative AI. Companies pumping hundreds of billions in investment into new generative AI tools and LLM models promote it as a sea change technology that will be as revolutionary as the introduction of the desktop computer. Even some game industry figures believe it will usher in a new era in which games are made better, quicker, and more cheaply, democratizing development for creatives without 100-person teams behind them. For indie publisher Tim Bender, the recent explosion in AI slop, you know it's Kotaku when they say that, has been nothing but a headache. If I sound frustrated, it's because, like, honestly, all this thing has done is made our lives more difficult. How? Like, if the generative AI is genuinely terrible, okay, fair. But that's on the developer making those decisions and putting into the game. And you could argue that it might not be great right now, but you're going to kneecap your entire business by saying in the future you're not allowing this in contracts either. The label helps run as CEO, Hooded Horse, struck gold after signing the medieval base builder mega hit Manor Lords. But its library of published games has grown far beyond it in the past 2 years, with releases like the Lego-like tower defense game Cataclysmo, the economic management sim Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, and the 4X sequel Endless Legends 2. Being strategy games isn't the only thing they have in common. They also all adhere to a strict ban on generative AI art. Oh, okay. Fine. Again, fine if you want to do that, but why would you say it like this is the worst thing ever? I fucking hate Gen AI art, and it has made my life more difficult in many ways. Okay, then don't use it. Wait, what? Suddenly it infests shit in a way it shouldn't, Bender told me in a recent interview. It is now written into our contracts if we're publishing the game, no fucking AI assets. My concern when I read this, by the way, is this is a way for them to, if they are to have found it in a game, to use it legally, to void a contract if things aren't working out, but let it slide if things are. Like, it's one of those things. It turns out that just saying no to Gen AI is the easy part. Actually trying to enforce a ban is where things can get tricky. That's what I was just saying. Yep. There's no magical machine you can put a game through to detect it if it has generative AI content in it. Platforms like Steam, which require disclosures for the use of such content, basically operate on good faith that developers will be honest about what's in their games. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 briefly had AI placeholder art in one part of the game at launch before it eventually was pulled. But that box on Steam was never checked. Okay, so all this tells me is that developers are going to be less transparent in the future, not more, because there's no way to for sure guarantee 100% proof that it was used unless they have full access to all the code and tools that were used to put the game together. So why would devs in the future just be like, yeah, no, we didn't, even when they did? Because they see the attacks that come for being honest. When Expedition 33 did, the Indie Games Awards took the award away from them, which, I mean, who cares? But still, just the act of doing that was just ridiculous. Production can be messy enough, even with small indie studios. Development teams working with freelancers or outsource companies, as many indies do, will have an even harder time maintaining checks throughout the protection pipeline to weed out any Gen AI art usage. Again, if it's going to be used by the developer, that they want to use it. I don't see an issue here. Gen AI art is cancerous. We've gotten to the point, this is a quote, where we also talk to developers and we recommend they don't use any Gen AI anywhere in the process because some of them might otherwise think, okay, well, maybe what I'll do is for this place, I'll put it as a placeholder, right? Bender told me. Like some people will have this thought, like they would have never want to let this in the game, but they'll think it can be a placeholder in this prototype build. But if that gets done, of course, there's a chance that that slips through because it only takes one of those slipping through in some build and not getting replaced or something. Oh no, not that. So a background texture that nobody noticed or cared about is going to come back and haunt them because they forgot to replace it with wasting time building something that nobody's ever going to care about. Huh? And also, how's this different than asset flipping on Steam with pre-rendered assets and things that have already been created that you just inject into the game that already exist? How's that any different at all? He continued, because of that, we're constantly having to watch and deal with it and try to prevent it from slipping in because it's cancerous. That's like saying assets on the Unreal store are cancerous because it prevents developers from creating their own assets because they can actually just buy assets and put them in the game. So they're cancerous. So you don't allow any games that have any assets from any stores when you're developing a game. What kind of line are you drawing here? If it makes sense to do it, why would you not do the best route to make your game the best you can? Hooded Horse has already this year helped usher the grand strategy sci-fi game Terra Invicta out of early access and into its 1.0 release. Employs 2 full-time artists who help with all the publisher's marketing art, which can be including appearances in showcases and announcements for things like Xbox Game Pass launches. It would be a betrayal of them to work with anything that is using Gen AI art. Like, I wouldn't be able to face them if we had that right. And we're absolutely, and I wouldn't be able to face them if we had that right. And we're absolutely committed ethically for all the reasons you know against this, Bender said. Again, what do you mean ethically? Are you going to play God here? What's ethical in game development? What do you mean ethically? How are you picking and choosing what's ethically okay when you develop a game and what's not? Why is this unethical? But assets that you can flip into games are not. His point of view isn't one you hear a whole lot among the video game industry's giants, for good reason too, by the way. EA is all in on potential for AI to make its loot box-driven sports franchises even more lucrative. Embark Studios, maker of last year's mega hit Arc Raiders, continues to shrug off complaints that the game uses generative AI voice performance. The only complaints are coming from the woke journal mafia. The gamers don't give a shit. Arc Raiders prove that beyond a shadow of a doubt. You guys and your voices in the media mean nothing. You mean something. If you're against it, that means gamers are probably going to be for it. So it's not completely meaningless. We don't use AI to not have to hire people or replace people or job groups or voice actors. CEO Patrick Sutherland recently told GamesBeat, people have to take a step back and understand what it is and how it can be a big help to developers and be a tremendous benefit to players. I realize it is an intricate subject and discussion. It's about good ethics, not bad PR. So this is going to turn into an ethical decision. And we're going to have Kotaku teach people about what good ethics are in journalism. This ought to be good. There's also a sense among some developers that everyone else is rushing to embrace the AI revolution. And anyone who doesn't will find themselves left behind in a landscape that's increasingly competitive and hostile to new game releases. Again, it's up to you as a developer if you want to do it or not. Why? This stuff hurts my brain when I start going through it. Korea is reportedly one of the countries where ChatGPT is used most actively. Sean Kim, co-CEO of Lives of P publisher Newitz, told Game Informer. It's hard to find a game company here today that isn't using AI in some way. At the very least, companies are using either ChatGPT or Gemini. And you know what's interesting about this? I was talking to one of my friends that's a engineer earlier today, actually, about this very thing, and how they use ChatGPT all the time nowadays for remedial tasks that used to be pawned off to entry-level engineers and things like that, because they don't have the access to that and they don't want to waste the time to do remedial tasks when they could be better used to working on advanced things that ChatGPT is not doing for them. And his concern when I talked to him about this was he worries about the future generations of coders in engineering, because the entry-level positions that used to be there are being taken away by ChatGPT. But at the same time, he's like, but that's reality. That's how life is. Don't know what that means for the future of coders and engineers down the road. But right now, it is a concerning dilemma. But at the same time, those same people that would be entry-level coders can now use ChatGPT to do the entry-level coding for them, to learn it even faster and ramp themselves up more advanced than they would have been without it. I look at ChatGPT and a lot of people that use it often as something that can be a massive beneficial time saver to remove remedial tasks that you used to do all the time, to waste your days away. It makes you so much more productive on things you actually care about. Even some acclaimed Game of the Year winners have been captured by this mindset. Our success comes from empowering people to work in their own way and bring the best out of their skill and craft so that we can make the best RPGs we possibly can. Baldur's Gate 3 director Sven Vinke posted on X last month. In that context, it would be irresponsible for us not to evaluate new technologies. However, our processes are always evolving, and where they are not efficient or fail to align with who we are, we will make changes. Wow. Seems like a very based approach to game development. We'll use it when it makes sense to use it, and we won't use it when it doesn't make sense to use it. Larian Studios co-founder was responding to a controversy that erupted over previous remarks that suggested Gen AI would be used in the making of the studio's next RPG, Divinity. Vinke promised no Gen AI assets in the finished game, but suggested artists might experiment with it during the exploratory phase of development. For Hooded Horse, the issue with Gen AI isn't just about skepticism over its usefulness or potential backlash from players. It's about the moral issues surrounding tools trained on plagiarizing other people's work. I'm sure Bungie would be perfectly fine with it. Okay, so plagiarizing other people's work. We've been in the business of making video games of asset flips from Unreal Engine, the Unreal Store, where previously created things exist from other people, and you're utilizing them in your game to save you time for remedial tasks. Instead of creating a box or a wheel on a car or a stick, you can just buy it and put it into the game. Or buy a pack of all these things and enter them to your game. Things nobody ever notices that they're the same in multiple games. No one ever cared about it because no one ever looks at them. And if you do look at them, they're in different positions and things are on top of them, so you don't even notice it. But yet apparently it's a moral issue if instead of you're buying it from a store or utilizing it from someone else, you're using AI to create it for you. Why? Why is there a line drawn there? When it comes to Gen AI, it's not a PR issue. It's an ethics issue, Bender said. I'm sure. By the way, I'm sure he hasn't been the most ethical, upstanding citizen. I would imagine he's probably done things in his life, just like everyone, where you could say, yeah, that's probably not the most ethical thing that I've done. But apparently he wants to play holier than thou God mode when he's creating a game. Okay. The reality is there's so much of it going on that the commitment just has to be that you won't allow it in the game. And if it's ever discovered, because this artist was hired by this outside person, slip something in, you get it out and you replace it. That has to be the commitment. It's a shame that it's even necessary, and it's a very frustrating thing to have to worry about. My goodness. I can't get over these people. The indie game scene is waging a puritanical war with itself over AI, throwing each other under the bus left and right, while major studios are openly using AI and still selling millions of copies. What a banger comment. And look at on Kotaku, of course, the downvotes and upvotes. Of course, the Kotaku wokies downvote that. It's true, though. They are. What is not accurate about that statement? Tools trained on plagiarizing other people's work doesn't really make sense. Even if you believe the output is plagiarism and the training is theft, the training can't be plagiarism. Well said. Again, 19 downvotes from people. And then the author, Ethan Gosh, responds, does the plagiarism occur when you copy the homework or turn it into your teacher is an interesting metaphysical conundrum. This apples and oranges. I love that trying to do the false equivalency to be like, oh, you're copying people's homework. That welcome to code writing 101 with creating games. Talk about people that have no idea how to develop a game. This is why the indie game scene is going to be left behind if they follow in line, if they fall in line with what the journal mafia is trying to ring them in right now with. It's actually pretty concerning. Sergeant Sabian says, Smash, there's probably a market for anti-AI sentiment, but it does sound like self-destructive virtue signaling. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. If people want to make a game with AI, have at it. This is like they're trying to gatekeep. I think that's the real concern, is they probably worked really hard to learn how to code and spent years and years doing it, and they don't mind doing the remedial tasks. So now they see kids coming up right now and being like, oh, just use ChatGPT to do that. And they're like, no, I had to pay for my schooling to do that. I had to sit through hours and hours of learning on my own and reading these books to do all those things. You can't just press a button and do it. No, that's 100% what it is.